This episode is brought to you by Zen Aesthetics in Pereira Construction. At Zen Aesthetics in Oak Harbor, experienced esthetician Adrienne Hawkins goes beyond skincare. She nurtures your soul while rejuvenating your skin. Book your appointment today and find your Zen. Visit Zen Aesthetics on Instagram because self-care isn't a luxury, it's a lifestyle. And a big shout out to Pereira Construction, building strong foundations, beautiful spaces, and a better Whidbey one project at a time. Transfer your home with Pereira Island Construction, where owners Mike and Susanna Pereira bring over 30 years of experience to every project. No upfront payments, you pay only when the job is complete and you're satisfied. Contact Mike for a free consultation and visit Pereira Island Construction to learn more. That's Pereira, Pereira, islandconstruction.com. Pereira Island Construction, building trust with quality work. Welcome, Whidbey Island listeners, to Local Whidbey with Magsy, the podcast where we celebrate the wildly creative, wonderfully quirky, and occasionally goat-owning humans that make this island the best place to live. And today, oh boy, do we have a treat for you. You know how some people just have that magic touch? Like they can capture a moment so perfectly that you swear you can hear the music, smell the salty sea air, and feel the collective joy of a crowd in a single photograph. Well, that's Dennis Browne for you. This guy is basically the unofficial historian of Whidbey's music scene, except instead of a dusty old textbook, he tells the story through stunning photography. Dennis has been everywhere, from intimate backyard jam sessions to full-blown festival stages, documenting the heartbeat of Whidbey Island's incredible music culture. He's got the eye, the passion, and probably the best backstage access of anyone on the island. And today, we're pulling back the curtain on what it's like to be the guy behind the lens, capturing the soul of Whidbey one epic shot at a time. So get ready for an interview that is a bit longer than my usual, but very worth it. Dennis has great stories and information you will want to hear, some laughs, and maybe, just maybe, some insider tips on how to look extremely cool in concert photos. Spoiler, it's all about the lighting. Hey, Dennis, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having this interview at Bailey's Corner Store. Is that what it's called?
Bailey's Corner Store.
Okay.
Way down south, Whidbey Island.
And so this is considered Clinton, correct?
This is Clinton. I would never think of it as Clinton. It's
Right.
Whidbey Island.
It's Whidbey Island.
South Whidbey, way down in the sticks.
Yeah.
Cultus Bay Road.
Well, I didn't realize until recently, in the last couple of months, that this was even here. So,
Yes.
Yeah, Cultus Bay Road.
Welcome to the crowd.
Yeah. So, let's start at the beginning. When and why did you move to Whidbey Island, or are you from here?
Nope, I'm not from here. Raised my kids in Sammamish, Redmond, Washington, Sammamish, Washington, east of Bellevue. I'm actually from Moscow, Idaho, so
Okay.
college town.
Yeah.
Moved over here 1983. I was a weekender on Whidbey for 30 plus,
Wow.
actually 40 years.
Okay.
And then moved here 15 years.
Okay. 15 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Live
Well,
out in the woods by Langley, but right in the middle of South Whidbey.
yeah, I haven't met a ton of people who were born here. And it's usually, that's why I asked the question, how long have you been here, or has it been forever? Was photography always a big part of your life, or did you discover it later on?
Good question. Always a big part. I remember the weekend. I was 11, and I'm 5 of 7 boys. And
Wow.
so we each had our avenue. Everybody else was brainoids. Let's see, 2 lawyers, 2 CPAs, all applied science, and then me.
Yeah.
And, truth be told, I was in special ed. So
Okay.
I always struggled with finding my avenue. I was 11, and my dad was going to Spokane for a volleyball tournament. He was on a volleyball team at the university, kind of a intramural type thing. Went to a volleyball tournament. He said, "Hey, Dennis, here, why don't you come with me?" He gave me his Pentax and camera and 4 rolls of Tri-X.
Okay.
And said,
For those who don't know, tell them what that is.
Yeah, so that dates me, and it's the wonderful world of photography. film photography, if you can imagine that. Photograph before digital, there was film, and capturing that everything else the same, capturing the action of a volleyball tournament. I was 11. My dad had taught me already how to use the camera, but he had never given it to me.
Right.
And 4 rolls of film, that's 120 shots. That was a ton back at that time. And I never looked back.
Wow.
So I still have photos from that weekend. And so photography's always been.
So that was the first time you picked up a camera. So did you know then, yep, this is it? Or was there that another time?
This was it. I knew then this was it. Then when brother number 1, Dave, went away to college, Reed College in Portland. And we each had our own bedroom. We had a huge house. And, hey, there's a bedroom opened up. My dad converted Dave's bedroom to a dark room.
Oh,
and
that's
so by
cool.
this time I was 13, 14. And, it was a gift. And every show I photograph now, I still remember and thank Dad for the gift. I mean, that was wonderful. So the enlarger, all the chemicals, all the paper. And so that was my creative space.
Okay.
And that was my avenue in my family. So, as a teenager, some of the photographs taken as a teenager, wacky.
Yeah.
I remember I photographed for this high school newspaper. And my favorite photograph was, actually 2 favorite photographs, was end of school, Mrs. Day's algebra class, 11th grade. Tom Billingsley, Mrs. Day had gone down to the office.
Yeah.
And I had my camera, and Tom Billingsley gets on the desk and jumps in the air, 4 feet in the air, and hands up and screaming, last day of school. And I go click, 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 and it made the front page of the school newspaper, which back in that day was newsprint. It was an official newspaper, and it captured, first of all, the view of a teenager. Although I take that same shot now, but you're just kind of wacky, just living life. But and so then I just kept digging into. Leaning into photography.
So what about photography speaks to you the most?
It's capturing, for me, it's capturing moments in life that pass you by.
Okay.
Yeah, and back to my dad, the volleyball tournament, watching him play sports, I've always been fascinated by his competitiveness. He's really physical and hits the ball hard, and he plays basketball too and all this stuff. And I saw that with my eye, but then life goes on and you can't, and I wanted to capture in a 2D image the action, the joy, the focus he has, or people have in whatever they're doing. Tom Billingsley leaping off the table, just capturing. He's still in the air. I mean, this was 45 years ago, and Tom hasn't landed.
Yeah.
I've taken photographs of other people, especially music photographs, just people, the emotion of life, not necessarily happy. My grandson leaving the Whidbey Island County Fair, looking over his shoulder, just bawling his head out because he doesn't want to go home. Or another favorite photo, and I haven't looked at this one. This was a tough one to take. It was, when my grandson died. He was 55 days old. Yeah. And the picture is of my wife and my daughter, Leonardo's mom. Yeah. And Leonardo. And my wife is holding Leonardo. At the funeral, and the 3 of those, it's such a unique time in life. It's so beautiful. Yeah. It's a sad beautiful. Yeah. And I clicked a shot, trusting that at some time later, this is 9 years ago, that I would want to look back, because it is life. Yeah. It is emotion. It is love and passion, even though it's tragic and sad. So.
Well, like I said in the intro, one of the reasons I was super interested in you, not only because your photographs are artistic, but because you cover the music industry so well, almost like a journalist. And all the music that is here, you cover. And so my first question is, what's your process in shooting a live music event? Or you go with a plan, or is it how you feel?
Yeah, good question. Let's see. Do I go with a plan? My plan is not to go with a plan. Okay. And because I thought of that, I used to go with a plan.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, because I'm a sports guy, right? So you have pregame, and you actually have driving to the game. So you have a thought process, and then you get to the practice, you warm up before the game, and all this. And so I do the same approach. I go to the show. I know who I'm photographing. Actually, sometimes I don't know who I'm photographing, and so I have to. My plan, because I don't have a plan, is I'm not sure who's going to be playing, what kind of music they're going to be, what kind of lighting there is. And so, but I do make sure I bring my camera. I've only forgot my camera once. Make sure I have battery, so all that logistics. But first get to the show. I find a good angle.
Yeah.
So where we're sitting now by the fire in Bailey's, this is the sweet spot.
Yes, it is the sweet spot.
There are other spots too around, so there's probably 5 different spots that I would go to in the show. But so that's how I approach pregame, so to speak.
Right.
And then the show starts, and I kind of have a warm up with. Again, this is digital, so the volleyball tournament where I had 120 shots.
Yeah.
I'll take that in 1.5 minutes, because 1 out of 100 shots turn out.
Yeah.
And actually, I could say 1 out of 4 turn out, but the body and the eyes and the mouth are so specific that within 100th of a second, the eyes will be full open or fully closed. And so I'll miss a shot. So I take a lot of shots typically.
So is that your biggest challenge in capturing live music?
It's staying focused.
Staying focused.
Because I don't know when the shot is going to happen.
Right.
And it might happen in the first 5 minutes. It might happen at sound check. I've had some shows where I capture the magic during their sound check. And so sometimes I'll put the camera away saying, I've got the shot.
Do you ever feel like you need to move because it's just not working for you?
Well, all the time.
Oh, all the time. Okay.
There's some, that is true. Actually, most spots, there's a shot that get taken. Some shots, I need to move because my pet peeve are music stands, and they block the way. So I gotta, even though, and so I do move a lot, especially the angle, and I don't take performance shots.
Okay.
And so it's not a shot that I would put on the front page of the Seattle Times of posing, Josephine musician posing with her guitar.
Right.
I want to wait till they're in the action.
Yeah.
Till they're singing their most, especially original music. It's magic because a musician is connecting with words they wrote.
Right.
And so that's usually about the third phrase in.
Okay.
And you have these lines where sometimes the musicians will tear up and they have to stop. And that's sweet. I just keep clicking.
Yeah.
And then, so that those moments is where I want to capture.
So what first drew you to the music scene on Whidbey Island?
Yeah, so that I would say, and this was before I really started photographing the music.
Okay.
But we had just moved here. It could have been the first summer. We moved here in November, following summer. We were at Bayview Nursery. Mm-hmm. And we lived close by, but me and my wife were at Bayview Nursery, and she was doing the shopping. I like looking at roses, but I don't buy anything. But we were walking back to the car, and you know where the cash store is? And so at that time, Bloom's Winery was in the cash store. And this was probably a Sunday, maybe a Saturday. And it was a sunny day, and outside they would always have musicians. Right. And I heard around the building, I just heard over the building this musician playing. Just wow. And again, I raised my kid. We came from Sammamish. Okay. We don't have music over there on the corner. And to get music, to get live music, you got to go into Bauer, the Pioneer Square. And I was raising my kids, so I never did that. I always loved music. But so I'm walking to the car, and I hear somebody that sounds like James Taylor. And wow, I just stopped and listened. And so then I followed the sound. And there was this guy playing outside of Bloom's. No one else was there. He was sitting on a stool playing his acoustic, and it was Nathaniel Talbot.
Oh.
And wow, I just stood there and I put in a $5 bill and then left and went home. And
so
that was magic. This is the realtor never told me about this.
Yeah.
Wow, this is.
So is that when you felt like I need to start documenting?
This is when, more or less, exactly. Yeah. That got in my mind. Then I would hang up. Hey, Bear, see you later.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Mm-hmm. And I would hang out at Double Bluff Brewery in Langley. They had just opened. And maybe a year later, they started having music in the courtyard. And one of the first guys they had, this farmer comes in, and it was Nathaniel.
Okay.
And so he was playing again. And it was funny because he runs an organic seed farm in north of Freeland. And he comes to play with his Stratocaster, and they play wonderful music. And I get my shots up close and personal. And when I back at home processing my photos, there's dirt in his fingernails. His shoes are all dirty. It's like, this is great. He says, he just came from the field. That's when I really started photographing. Is that when I saw he was not just a musician that sounded like James Taylor. Now he's Nathaniel Talbot with all original music. He's coming from the field and he's just pouring his heart out.
Right.
In a courtyard in Langley, Washington. And that was just one of the many musicians.
So how would you describe the music culture on Whidbey Island?
Yeah, so when I saw that, when I think of Whidbey Island music, I think of the last 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So in the last 2 weeks, I probably photographed 3 shows a week. For the last 2 weeks, 6 shows. There's always a surprise of musician. And 2 weeks ago, I photographed Whidbey Island Music Festival. An organization run by Tekla Cunningham. She lives on the island. She lives in Seattle as well. Mm-hmm. And for 18 years, she's been running this organization, nonprofit. This organization has about 5 concerts a year, maybe 6, classical music. Yeah. And so 2 weeks ago, I photographed classical music. They were playing Schumann and Brahms. And then, let's see, the week following, or the Wednesday following, there was a Wednesday show here at Bailey's. I photographed Russell Klepper and Rob Harris and Becca B. playing, and Clara Primrose playing Americana. Yeah. Russell's from Texas. Yeah. And so just again, all original. I guess they did play some covers, but they sounded like them, so they're original to these guys. They were just the best music. So classical, then Americana, then the next 3 days later, I'd never seen this guy. This was one of the surprises, Pax Wallace, the Pax Wallace Trio. Okay. And Pax plays the keyboards and just the best real jazz. Okay. And
like
George played the drumming, Miles Davis jazz. Who's the sax player? I don't know the names. That's okay. Pax will give me just the classics, plus originals. So so that was the third, and then the next day there was a kind of a fusion jazz duo, a drummer, Rockman Ross, my favorite musician, and Gideon Freudman plays the cello. And it's not a classic cello, classic music. It's again jazz fusion. It's with a looper, with amps. He does some singing, but it's the best. It's the best music. And then the next day, or maybe 3 days later, Mason Turner and Hunter Prescott from Hunter's from Bellingham. Okay. Bluegrass. So yeah. Wow. So what's the music scene like? Music culture like on Whidbey? You go
eclectic.
classical music, you go bluegrass, you go, the jazz, Americana, and that's just half of it.
Yeah.
So there's hip hop. Yeah. So
that was just in the last 2 weeks.
That's just 2 weeks. Yeah. Exactly. I'm behind on processing those photos. What's interesting is Tekla Cunningham's music shows concerts that she produces, right? Classical music are concerts, jazz is a show.
Right. Yeah.
The same wonderful musicians, the passion for their music. So these musicians, different genres, but that same, there's shredders shredding Bach and Beethoven, and there's Gideon Freudman, this fusion jazz guy. He'll throw out a Mendelssohn or a Mozart on his cello, and the whole spectrum, always something new. And so from a photographer, it's the sweet spot because I never know what is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a sunset on Whidbey. You never know, is it the weather going to change in 20 minutes? Did you get some good stuff, or the sun's going to peek out?
So you mentioned just a while ago your favorite musician, Rockman?
Yeah, Rockman Ross.
Rockman Ross, and what does he play?
Yeah, so he plays he's a percussionist.
Oh, okay.
He plays the drums.
Yeah.
The drum kit, the djembe. He'll play anything he can get his hands on. And I typically, because I run it, I just love all these musicians. It's kind of like my kids. I don't want to say who my favorite kid is. Musicians. I don't want to say who my favorite, because they're all fantastic. And by the way, because we were talking about this earlier on singing on key or not.
Yeah.
In a photograph, everybody is on key and sounds like Janis Joplin, or Sarah Vaughan.
They're throwing sweat.
And exactly. So Rockman Ross is my favorite. Oh, I was captured by him early on.
Yeah.
And he was my motivation for my photography, for my being a photo artist. And that I took a photograph of him at Little BIG Fest, the first Little BIG Fest I went to.
Okay.
And he was playing with the band Frequalizer. Eric Kahn and Matt McDowell playing the sax, Eric on the guitar, and Rockman's brother Stefan on the killer bass. And so the brothers are just the best. Went click for the evening, and the next week I sent him some photos.
Yeah. And
double exposure, because again, I want to have my purpose in my live music photography is to capture. I love music. Passion's is photography for me. I want to capture the magic on the stage that you kind of see as you're seeing in real life, like what ABC Wide Roller Sports, the real thing. Yeah. But I want to capture it in a 2D image. Yeah. So I did my thing at Little BIG Fest for Rockman Ross and sent him to it and sent him the photo. Multiple, I think there was 4 images over. Right. And it was just, I saw him at Useless Bay Coffee in Langley the next week.
Okay.
But 2 days after I sent him this photo, and he just, his jaw dropped. Dennis, you captured how I feel when I'm sitting on my stool behind my drum kit in the middle of it. Is that this is the emotion that and I sensed that emotion when I was watching him.
Right.
And hence the photograph. And why that's such a big thing is that I'm onto something here. Yeah. That these musicians, I kind of feedback. This is what you guys look like.
Yeah.
This is the match, because a lot of them are pretty critical of their own music. But this is how I see it. Yeah. And again, just my opinion. I shoot for an audience of one. And it's just, sometimes I don't like music. That's very seldom. But sometimes, it's so-so, and that's very seldom. Most of the time it's, wow, I'm capturing. And you wouldn't necessarily notice that.
Right. So
in a live
do you have
show.
a most memorable concert or a shoot?
Little BIG Fest last August.
Okay.
3 days of, it took me 3 weeks to recover from it. But, Every band. There was 38 bands, and I only missed 2 bands capturing them. There are several highlights, but again, the nightcaps were the best. Friday night, the last band, Ska Island, kind of a reggae band, and let's see, Polyrhythmics was Saturday night, and they're a funk band, and then Sunday night was Scott Pemberton Trio, and I don't know how to qualify this. He's just awesome. But all these guys, such good musicians, and trying to, again, each show capturing the essence of these musicians. 38 shows, and I had to go home and offload my hard drive on my camera to take more shots. But the most memorable show was Saturday night, Polyrhythmics. And thanks to Keegan Harshman and Priscilla Lowry, the executive producers of Little BIG Fest, they gave me access to the stage, so I could go any place. And so it was my dream for ever since I was a little kid, and I saw my first Woodstock photo. It's like, I want to do that. This was it. I got up early in the morning on Sunday after the show and processed the photos before 7, and then put them on social media. And by 11, I got a message from the Polyrhythmic band manager saying, "Hey, can you come down and take some shots of our show in Seattle on Halloween, and then we have a show in Tacoma for New Year's Eve, and we'd really like you to. We'll give you free pass and backstage access." And this band, they were in the middle of an East Coast tour the following week, and so this is the best.
I am absolutely amazed. You remember everyone's names, everything, all the shows, all the musicians, all the things you've been to, hundreds. You remember their first and their last name and the name of their group.
Always the first, last name, I take a chance.
Okay.
Yeah, and the story goes, well, again, like I said earlier, I was a shy kid.
Yeah.
And for a shy kid, an introvert, different names over the decades, but the camera is great because you get to hide behind the camera. Mm-hmm. And so I was that way probably until I was, probably until I moved to Whidbey and did this live music stuff, because the bonus of all this, I'm shooting all these wonderful musicians, and the time it changed was, again, at Double Bluff Brewery, which for me had the best music, and it introduced me to live music in the alleyway. And I know this wonderful bluesman, the band's Deja Blues, David Greger, and David LaCastro were playing. David Greger owns Greger Rare Books in Langley. Okay. And so he's a staple on the island. I didn't know that. But so he's playing blues in the alleyway at Double Bluff Brewery, and just something about him. He's a little bit older than me. He always said he has a fedora hat, he has gray hair, and he had short pants and bright yellow Chuck Taylor shoes, Converse like my shoes. And just very photogenic. So I went click, click, click. I clicked his show, and then at home, after I processed the photos, I noticed his website had no photos. This artist is wonderful, but he had no presence. Yeah. And my premise, like I tell all the musicians, that if no one takes a photograph of your show, in 2 weeks people will forget about it. It never happened. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to forget these shows. They're that wonderful. And so, anyways, the next week I get a flash drive full of 100 shots that I took at David Greger's show, including the ones with his yellow Chuck Taylors. I said, "Hey, David, here." Go walk into his bookstore, and here's a classic Whidbey moment. Yeah. Here's a flash drive on Dennis. I loved your show last weekend, and here's some photos. And he, as I was telling this, he was pulling out his checkbook and wrote me a check for $150. And he said, "Oh, do you have a business card?" I said, "A what?" Yeah. He said, "Yeah, you need a business card." Oh. And I'll get one. So within a week, I'd ordered from Vistaprint a business card that I still use. Yeah. to this day. And then that's when my business, if you know, Dennis Browne Photography, DennisBrownePhotography.com is where my stuff's at. Then it became official. Okay, so now I'm not this shy kid behind the camera or shy adult. I'm, you know, I have a business card. So whenever I go to a show and I don't know the musician, hey, I'm Dennis. Here's my card. Let me know. And I give them, for the first time, I give them free photos. So here's again, so that their wonderful show is not forgotten. And then I know all these guys. I know, you know, hundreds of people, and not just their name, but who they, you know, then after I see Nathaniel Talbot for the 5th time, I kind of know his story and just him as a person. And that's like, wow, I love photographing you, Nathaniel, but man, you're a wonderful, wonderful friend and his person. That's where the community comes in. And then the bonus is to run, you know, go to the grocery store at the Goose. At Kim's Corner. Oh, hey, there's David Greger, or there's David Maloney, or, you know, I go down to the baby corner, the nursery, and there's Rockman Ross. Stephen Ross is there. And it's like, that's community.
It is community. And in that, let's talk about your photos themselves. To me, they really capture energy. If you can visually see it, your photos capture that, and also emotion. So obviously to you, when you're at these events, it's raw, it's live. And so what exactly, I don't know, I guess I'm trying to see what kind of feeling, or you can tell the listener what that feeling is like that you get from that. You were describing the drummer earlier.
It's magical is probably the best word. Like I said earlier, I see 3 shows a week, so I see a ton of shows. Out of all these shows, twice I have not brought my camera. And some people, when they see me without my camera, they say, "Oh, are you exactly?" Well, that's an interesting visual. Are you sick? You know, you're actually serious. Oh, you're not just. And and then the typical is, which I totally understand. Oh, must feel good not to be at work. You know, you get to relax, and
because they think it's work.
They think it's work, and I understand that because it's 2 hours behind the camera, and I tell them, you know, I have the best seat in the house.
Yeah, you do,
because I have my telephoto, and I'm right here in the back of the room, and I can see when you cry, when you sing your song. People don't see. Side note, I also can see when you pick your nose, and you know, and
well, that's what I was talking about, the rawness. You see the rawness.
I see the rawness of the emotion. That's the 3rd layer down. Like I told you, I shoot life 3 layers down. That's the sweet spot. That's where the soul is. And I tell my wife, who's my best critic, and my brother Chris Browne, lives in Lewiston, Idaho. He's a music nut, and we have a similar music journey. You know, growing up as a kid. He's my younger brother. He's never been to Babies, but I send him all my stuff, and he gives it a thumbs up, or he doesn't give it a thumbs down. But some stuff I love this shot, and he doesn't give it. If you see on social media any post that says dynamite, that's Chris saying thumbs up. Dynamite, all caps, is like 5 stars.
Dynamite.
Dynamite, kid. And he says if he can hear the music through the photograph, that's a dynamite. So that's kind of my goal.
Okay, so outside of the music scene and your photography, what do you love about living on Whidbey Island?
Yeah, that's probably probably 3 things. First, what brought me here, Evie's Landing. Been coming here off island, and then when my daughter was 20, she came here when she was an infant. When she was 21, she had Jaden, her 8-month-old son, and her partner. They wanted to get married. So we lived in Sammamish. So where do you want to get married, Kate? Edie's Bluff. Oh, that's what I said. And so we came over. We stayed for a week for the wedding, and this was 14 years ago. 6 months later, we were packed up and moved over.
Over here.
What I like best about it is the surprises. Bailey's Corner is typical.
It's a surprise.
I would always come over to Whidbey for two beaches, Eby's Landing and Double Bluff Beach. Mm-hmm. Oh, Deception Pass, that too. But I thought and that was enough reason to move.
Yeah.
But there's got to be more beaches. So I challenged myself. And one day, sun up to sunset, how many beaches can I go? Public beaches.
Okay.
And my rule was I had to, first of all, photograph them.
Yeah.
And stay there 20 minutes.
Okay.
I ended up at waterfront or the beach in Langley. Okay. Shorefront, waterfront, anyways, beach. Wonderful beach. That's the last beach, and then I went to Double Bluff Brewery for a pint.
Yeah.
19 beaches later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and all these beaches I didn't know. And when I put this on social media and Flickr, and I send it out to people that are visiting or thinking, hey, what's to do on Whidbey? Well, here's 19 beaches. Hey, you forgot this beach. You forgot that beach. So I've inserted probably 9 more beaches. So it's that surprise. The beauty, obviously, is wonderful. And then
so are any of those your favorite spots or hidden gems?
Still Eby's Bluff. That's still it. There's Max Welton is that's 5 minutes away, Max Welton Beach. Mm-hmm. Ala Spit, the northeast corner of the island. That's my surprise favorite. Right. It's a spit that no one goes to.
Okay.
That's a wonderful spot. The other part, I call it Whidbey. It really isn't. It's on Fidalgo, but it's the other side of the bridge.
Yes, Rosaria.
Bowman Bay. Below Rosaria.
Okay.
And because there's a trail that goes way out there on the point.
Oh. Okay.
And exactly. I never knew about that till. Yeah. And it's sweet. So, and then the third thing is the people here, because what's unique about Whidbey. And I found this out hanging out at Double Bluff breweries. People would come in, you get local people. You get some people that grew up here, but mainly people that moved here. But they could have moved any place else. Right. They move here for retirement. Yeah. They could have moved any place else, but they moved to Whidbey. And that has an impact on the community. Yeah. Now, I grew up, raised my kids in Sammamish. Wonderful place, right? Yeah. You could see the Cascades. But you kind of have to live there. I worked for the Boeing company, which was a short commute, or a Microsoft short commute, Google, all that stuff. And so you don't move to Sammamish because you want kind of Whidbey. You could move to Sequim. You could move to the Okanagan Valley. You could move to Palm Deserts. Yeah. They come to Whidbey, and that changes the community because people are committed. Yeah. In their body. I love that. The other thing is I was a weekender, so it was great on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but it's even better on Tuesday and Wednesday. Yeah. So you walk downtown. Yeah, it's just the tourists had gone home. Yeah. It's a different vibe. Yeah. That's what I like.
So a little bit more serious question I like to ask everyone is, how do you hope the community will grow or evolve in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yes, and that's for me. When we first came here, I remember talking to the vice principal. Ran into him at the Goose, so of all places. That would never happen in Seattle. Right. And he said, everybody, I said, I love Whidbey Island. He said, this is a unique place. Everybody gets along. And that was 15 years ago. It's not necessarily the case now, unfortunately. Now, how it applies to music is where a community can heal. Because people come here, and I love the jazz last week, the rock and roll, the bluegrass, love that. Somebody else on the other side of the room loves that too. That's our commonality, right? So that's where we can come together and share a common love for music. There was a month ago. There was some punk rockers, and they were the best. The first punk rock group on Bailey's. I hope they come back. I think they can come back. Again, there's other people that loved it. Commonality in it. To focus on what we have in common versus what we don't have in common. Because when I compare myself because I know these musicians and people in the crowd. You differ on a lot of things, and will they respect me for my beliefs that differ from theirs? Yeah. music is that stake in the ground that we can both hold on to and agree to disagree. But you know what? Let's dig into this pop rock. These guys, or Nathaniel Talbot, he's just released a new album, new material. Isn't that the best?
Right.
So that's how I hope.
I'm so glad that you brought up this point, because I've been really listening in the interviews this question, and you're the first one who I feel has answered my question about how to merge the northern end of the island with the southern end of the island.
Yeah.
From the very first time that I moved here, when everything opened back up, and I was meeting people, and they were like, welcome, because I'm on the northern end. Welcome, so glad you're here. Could not have been nicer. And if I said, well, I didn't know, blah, 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 in the area, that's a really nice area to live. And I said, we just went to Anacortes. What a nice area to live. And their whole demeanor changed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, you don't need to live on the southern end or in Anacortes. Everything you need is right here.
Yeah.
And that's when I first discovered the little divide.
Yeah.
And I think you're right that the commonality can be the music, that you can literally sit and listen to someone sing. It's not important what they think politically. It doesn't matter if they live on the southern end or the northern end, right?
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then we leave. Mm-hmm. Hey, where do you go? What's the next show you're going to?
Yeah.
You look at my art, my passion. Yeah. This is life for me.
Yeah.
I raise my kids to have a passion about something. Mm-hmm. I don't care what it is. My grandkids, they have a passion about something. One of my favorite venues for music is my garage.
Yeah.
Because my grandkids get to play their music in there. I don't let adults in there.
Okay.
I'm the only adult that lets it go in there. That addresses what you were saying about singing and have.
Yes.
And because there they grab into their passion for life, for music. Mm-hmm. I don't see anything political or social or the way you dress.
Right.
I'm sure there's earrings up there. Who knows where?
Tattoos.
What I see are unique individuals that were given a God-given talent to express themselves via music.
Yes.
Now, if your art is oil painting, collage, construction, wood carving, I know all those types of people around here, and I told, and this is a big part of my Whidbey story, leaving in at night. Mm-hmm. When I first moved to Whidbey, again from Sammamish, where I was 12 feet from each side of my house from people that they worked from Microsoft, and I'd lived there for 25 years, and it used to be a Boeing neighborhood. Right. Now it was, at that point, 14 years ago, it was a Microsoft neighborhood. Nothing against Microsofties, but I met both my neighbors the day they moved in, which was 2 years before, and the day they moved out, which was current.
Right.
They were stayed for a 2-year contract.
Yeah.
And you really never got to know them.
Yeah.
I moved to Whidbey, 5 acres out off of Crawford Road by Muckleteel Coffee Roasters.
Yeah.
I could not see my neighbors.
Yeah, that's right. You can't there.
Within 7 days, within 1 week, every neighbor drove up to my front porch.
Aww.
Gave me bread, gave me cookies, and
people do that on my street.
Exactly, and it was this is community.
Yeah.
Now,
it is.
One of my neighbors who was they were retired, and she was from the other side of the political spectrum from me. And when she found out what side I was, she took a step back and took another step back and kind of looked at me sideways. Right. And I said, don't worry. Politics for me is like 3 levels down on importance. First, my priorities in life are God first, family second, community third. Yeah. And these ladies were over 70. And I said, the next windstorm, when the power goes off, I'm going to be the first to your house to make sure your generator is started, right? And not because you're on the other side of the political spectrum. Right. I'll go to just the ones that agree with me. So that politics, that's how I live my life.
Yeah, I like that.
That's how it should be. Is that how it is? No.
No.
It's not, that's my reality is that.
Yeah.
No, but I let that'll settle out by somebody else. I know that I'm going to take a good shot, be a good neighbor.
Yeah.
And it's just not my priority.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good thing.
So,
do you have any exciting projects or things you're really looking forward to that are coming up?
Well, for sure. April 17th or 19th, I think 17th, Saturday. There's a show in Freeland Hall. Little Big Fest is putting on a spring solstice show.
Yeah.
And they always bring, again, Little Big Fest Arts and Music Festival, the best. The festival is in August. This is, they have then a show in December, a show in spring. Exactly, It's a pre. Funky to Death is playing. Trippin' Gypsies is playing. South Whidbey High School Jazz Band is playing. So 3 killer lineups, especially Funky to Death is just a high energy band from Seattle.
Right.
So photographing them. And then in August, photographing, I'm the photographer for the Little Big Festival. So that's fun. I am coming out with, this has been in the works for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I've done one book, kind of a tabletop, the classic book from the 70s. I don't know if people have coffee tables anymore, but
I do, and I love coffee table books.
Same. One of them, it's called The Art of Music. When did I put that together? 3 years ago. 40 of my favorite live music photographs of Whidbey. I need another one.
Okay.
But this one, and I thought of this, 3 years ago, but now that I know all these musicians, and I knew something was unique about all of them, I decided, what this book needs is maybe, what's the story of Rockman Rocks?
Yeah.
Fred Hostetler.
Ooh,
he's a acoustic blues guy. And all these musicians they don't promote themselves, they're just regular people.
Right.
And so what's the story? So the typical one, this is just kind of to show you where I'm going, is that I interviewed Fred, and he's this 70-plus-year-old bluesman, grew up in Indiana, and wanted to be a musician, went to New York and signed a record deal, and he was talking about just the excitement of putting out music. And on his label, there was another band who was getting a rebrand. And so Fred's band opened up to this band in a small theater, kind of like the Moore Theater in Seattle, 4,000 people, whatever. And the band wore makeup for the first time. Full face, it was Kiss.
Yeah.
And so Fred was there on the first Kiss show with makeup. And so he's unfolding this story like, what? Where are the comments in Langley?
You were at the first Kiss concert?
You were, but on stage with them, exactly. And there's 4 other stories like that.
Yeah.
Like these people that they come to Whidbey because they want to. You don't realize that they've toured with Van Morrison. And been on the been written songs for these for Jeff Beck.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a wow. So that type of story, 20 pages with my photography in it. And that's how special music is on Whidbey.
Yeah.
Because you go to Seattle, Ballard's a good place. I went there yesterday.
Yeah.
You see a show at the Tractor or Con or Burn. After, 10 minutes after the show, the musicians have already gone. And who knows where they go? They go 30 miles away. Here, they go 10 minutes away, and you'll see them the next day at the grocery store.
That's
so
funny.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is very cool. So before we wrap this thing up, tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can always find me at a show at Bailey's Corner. Okay. I'll be the guy with the gray Irish cap backwards. If I'm not taking photographs, it's frontwards. If I'm doing my stuff, it's back.
He's working if it's
Dennis
backwards.
DennisBrownePhotography.com. Yeah, exactly.
DennisBrownePhotography.com.
Yes, and that's Brown with an E on the end of Brown. BOWNE. Dennis Browne Photography. I'm on Facebook too. Let's see. There's a link on my on Instagram, DE Browne. On my website, there's also a link I have a writing blog, so I'm a writer too. So yeah, every one of these photographs, there's a story behind it that I've written for, either on paper or in my mind.
So you're blogging, writing. You're on Blogspot?
Blogspot.
I didn't even know anyone was on Blogspot
anymore. That's because I'm probably the only one. And why change?
Because the background is black. That's how you know you're on Blogspot.
Exactly. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. And my Smug Mug background's black too.
Smug Mug. And do you have Flickr?
I have Flickr. Right? That's just for my...
Mm-hmm.
There's just a ton of stuff there. Yeah, Flickr. And that's linked off of my... Mm-hmm. Dennis Browne Photography.com. Yeah. There's also a Facebook page. So with all this photography, live music photography, I kind of know where all the shows are.
Yeah.
And so then probably 2 years ago,
just follow Dennis for that.
I'd get messages from people on Thursday. Hey, who's playing this Friday? Or who's playing this week? Hey, my friend from Indiana is coming into town in 2 weeks. Do you know who's playing then? And so then I'd give my feedback, and after about 15 people, I thought, they're not the only ones that don't know. There's no central place. So I started on Facebook.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm telling you, sometimes I've really had to dig for things that are going on here.
Exactly.
Because people put it out once somewhere and hope everyone see it, and that's just not the case. Yes.
So I started a Facebook page with Kelly Keith.
Okay.
Called Whidbey Island Live Music.
Okay.
You go to that on Facebook.
I'm so glad you told me that.
That logs and so then I put out, when I hear of bands playing, and the purpose is who's playing what, who's playing when and where.
Okay, good.
So who, when, where.
Who, when, where.
Nothing else. Photos from past shows, the show from last week, or a photo of who's coming up, who's playing when and where. And so I'll post there. The venues will post. Mm-hmm. Post there, the artist will post, but they're playing, when and where. The key is up at the top. There's a tab called Events.
Right.
And if you click on it, if the venue, and I always create an event and a Facebook event, you'll create a Facebook event, and then it'll log and it'll pop up. Say of the show that's going to happen in 2 weeks.
Okay.
13 days from now, it'll pop up saying, "Hey, you have a show next."
Well, Dennis, I am so happy that you agreed to this interview. It's been so much fun and highly knowledgeable to me. I haven't been here on the island for time. So it's super nice to meet you. And I'm sure that this podcast is going to be of interest to so many people. I was thinking about your book.
I'll sign. Yeah.
By you or by whoever you talked about, turn open the page. I'm on page 21, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Check out the latest issue of Whidbey Live magazine at any grocery store. Yeah. It has a section on a story well written by Russell Klepper on Bailey's Corner, the music at Bailey's Corner. They also do trivia here at Bailey's. They have a comedy night. So it's a community hub too. Yes. And my photograph's on the front of Nick Vigorino, who played here, killer bluesman. And it's just, he's like a...
Well, I was telling you earlier that, and you agreed with me, that I'm used to seeing things like this, like Bailey's Corner, but not here. Yes. In Texas, Louisiana, some of those states that you're driving down the road and there'll be like a Bailey's Corner with food, with grocery items, with gasoline and music attached.
Oh, and music.
But here it surprised me.
Here's a surprising, and there's Ogre's Brewery next door, has great music. There's Double Bluff Brewery in Langley, like I said earlier. Otten Hunter in Langley is kind of a nightclub that has the best view of any music venue around Dancing Fish in Freeland. Green Bank Cidery in Freeland, a wonderful place. They're starting to do music in Green Bank at the Bistro. Up in Coopville, Whidbey Tides, Waves and Tides.
Waves and Tides.
Yeah, that's owner Mitch, killer drummer.
Is he? Okay.
He plays in Jungle Rooster with Dan and Mitch.
Jungle Rooster.
It's 80s rock and roll, the best.
Okay.
All these venues that I would go to. I would go to any of those before I head to Ballard to catch live music. And the quality of music is on par with them too. And in fact, the Seattle bands come out here to Bailey's because they love the, like you said, like it's like Texas.
Well, talking about 80s, our boys grew up listening to that because we were in high school and college in the 80s. And so they listened to the 80s.
What you listen to?
Because Mike, my husband, listened to it all the time. And they're like, 80s is the best music we've ever heard. I don't know if they think that now, but when they were growing up listening to it, they were like, this is the best music ever.
They think that now. They
think
might
that
not
now.
say it, but a lot of these artists on stage, their undertone, their foundation is 80s music.
Yeah.
The grunge music too. That's 90s, 70s, and mainly the vibe and the passion.
Right.
But yeah, thanks for taking the time.
You're welcome. Yeah. Thanks, Dennis. That's a wrap on another episode of Local Whidbey with Magsy. Whether you're all about island life or just island bound in spirit, I hope you all are audacious islanders. Yes, that is a plug for my merch. Thanks for tuning in and celebrating the people, places, and magic that make Whidbey Island so special. Don't forget to share the love, tell a friend, leave a review if you have something positive to say, and follow along for more stories from our audacious island. Until next time, keep it quirky, keep it local, and keep loving Whidbey. Looking to create a life filled with connection, creativity, and a little bit of audacious charm? At withmagsy.com, we bring people together in all the best ways. Join the Supper Club, where food, laughter, and great company make every gathering unforgettable. Tune in to the Local Whidbey with Magsy podcast, celebrating the small businesses and bold dreamers that make up audacious islanders and shape Whidbey Island. Transform your home with Spaces, a personalized interior styling service that reflects your style and brings your space to life. Ready to gather, be inspired, and make your space truly yours? Visit withmagsy.com today.